It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
All right, hello there, South Mississippi, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm senior meteorologist Wesley Williams. So as we get things started on this Tuesday, we're expecting to see another nice day with actually a little bit of a cold start, but don't worry because we're actually heading for milder weather. So that's what this update is going to cover, how we trend milder for midweek. Before we take a look at the weekend, which will feature some changes as there's a winter storm that develops across the region and brings us some wet weather, can bring some other places, maybe some snowy, maybe icy weather. There's today, temperatures rising to the upper 50s along the coast, but we're actually going to see temperatures approaching 60 in some cases. So that's what I mean when I say it's mild. Yesterday the high was like 57. So today when we go 58, 59, 60, a little bit milder than yesterday. Tomorrow we're going into the mid and upper 60s, and then Thursday we're upper 60s, maybe almost 70 for some inland areas. But you're also noticing those rain chances ticking up and up as well. So that's going to be something that we watch for you during the middle of the week. There is going to be an upper disturbance that moves through and brings us some midweek rain chances before a big blast of Arctic air arrives Saturday, and that is how we get to a colder weekend. The problem is that the cold will get here and the moisture will still be here too. So with those interacting across parts of the South, that's what will lead to rain, snow, and ice impacts across parts of the South region. Before we jump to the weekend, though, here's a quick look at today's futurecast. Partly cloudy sky. It looks like a beautiful day. It will be very nice, just about as nice as it was yesterday. Tomorrow, it will become cloudier, so don't expect to have as much sunshine on Wednesday, especially once we get to the PM hours. Most of Wednesday's rain is expected to occur away from the Mississippi coast and closer to Hattiesburg and Jackson. So if we freeze this at basically 5 or 6 p.m., you can see most of the rain took place mainly northwest. I mean, if you're in Pearl River County, areas like Poplarville, if you're around Wiggins, those could be some places that get that better potential for rain setup tomorrow. But for most of us, we're really going to kind of wait until tomorrow night into parts of Thursday. And look how fleeting these showers are. Very hit or miss, right? So not expecting a giant chance for rain, but it is going to be a chance. Amounts are going to be very light out of this. We're expecting most areas to have only up to a ½ inch of rain in South Mississippi through Thursday's end. Here's the thing though. Over the next 7 days, there are going to be some areas in the South with heavy precipitation. And you can see that purple color showing up near and north of Jackson. So there's going to be a stretch of area that really gets a setup for some really, really wet weather. And if it's just rain, no big deal, but it's wet and cold. So it might not be just rain for places like Shreveport, Jackson, Birmingham, Atlanta, Greenville, Oxford, Starkville. Those are all places that are going to be so cold that it's not going to be just rain. Maybe on the coast for us, it might be just rain, but for those areas north, it's looking more and more likely that there's going to be some type of wintry weather. Here's a look at the snow totals. This should be Friday through Sunday. Let's take a look and see. No, it's actually reverted. Let's see if I can get this to look back right. I did save it earlier, but it's reverted my save changes. So hopefully this will let me plot on. What it was doing was it was plotting the next 7 days. I wanted to just do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there you go. I'll hit save on that. So that's a look at the Friday, Saturday, Sunday snow totals. You can clearly see where the bullseye is. Amarillo, Texas, a foot of snow. Memphis, Tennessee, a foot of snow. Raleigh, North Carolina, over a foot of snow. Those are giant numbers for this region, which will create giant major impacts, right? Now, obviously, when we zoom in to coastal Mississippi, we don't see that. So that's good news for us on the coast. We don't have to worry about any kind of major snow disruptions. But if there are going to be snow disruptions, snow impacts from snow accumulations in our state, those are probably going to be mainly focused in the northern fourth, northern third of the state, Greenville, Tunica, Oxford, Tupelo, Starkville, seeing snow totals around at least a half a foot in some cases, but obviously there's that sharp cutoff. Once you get to Starkville, it's not even an inch. You go to Tupelo, 2 or 3 inches. You go to Oxford, around 5 or 6 inches, and then you go to Tunica near Memphis, and you're pretty much closing in on a foot of snow. Just incredible numbers there. And again, looks like Jackson, no snow total. Hattiesburg, no snow total. Mississippi Coast, no snow total. But it's not all about snow, right? There's this ice too, right? Snow, you know, it kind of falls. It's these snowflakes that can get densely packed, but it doesn't always create any major travel issues sometimes as much as this stuff, ice. When we're talking about freezing rain, talking about sleet, but especially freezing rain, that's where you can get the roads becoming extremely slippery. And it doesn't take much of this to do that. Usually you only need like a quarter of an inch to start to see some pretty decent disruptions from ice accumulation. If you're getting like a half inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, that's like serious, big deal disruptions to travel. And today's computer model is actually spitting out numbers that are absolutely ridiculous. It's spitting out ice accumulations of greater than an inch, ice accumulations of greater than 2 inches. I bet that would likely be historic if we wound up seeing that in northern Mississippi. That is a ridiculous amount of ice that would bring travel to a crippling halt across much of the northern part of our state. Even Jackson to see 8/10 of an inch. Again, that would bring Jackson to a crippling halt. Mississippi does not have the infrastructure to combat 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. So for our sake, let's hope that these numbers are wrong and that when we keep seeing the revisions to the forecast information in the days to come, hopefully these numbers can come down. Obviously, again, the good news for us on the coast is that we don't see any accumulation showing up with this computer model, but these are not our high resolution computer models, and we're not going to be able to take a look at our high resolution computer model accumulations until, guess what? Basically Friday. So I told you that yesterday. I told you we're not going to really have a really good idea, a high confidence idea with the ability to throw our best, most high resolution computer models at this stuff until basically Friday. We have to be within 48 or 72 hours because those computer models are so high resolution that they're not run out very far into the future because it would take forever for them to finish. So they usually only run out about 48 hours, 72 hours. And in case you were wondering what the difference is between the types of winter precipitation, let's take a look at that. So in coastal Mississippi, you just saw that we were not expecting any snow, any ice in today's update, in Tuesday's update to the information. It could change, but as far as today's update, not expecting snow or ice. We're expecting rain. So this is our scenario here. This is a column of air above Biloxi, for example, on Saturday and Sunday. So what will happen is way up in the sky where the clouds are, there's a snow cloud up there. There's snow. If you fly high enough on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, it will be snowing above South Mississippi, but you got to get in a plane to see it. Because the thing is, even though the air is cold up there where that snow cloud will be above South Mississippi this weekend, there's this giant layer of air that's warm, air that has a temperature of greater than 32 degrees. So any snowflakes that happen thousands of feet up in the sky, they're going to melt into raindrops, and they're just going to stay rain the whole way down to the Mississippi coast. That's what we are forecasting, this scenario of this type of column of air above Biloxi, for example, as we head into this weekend. So that's why you don't really see us explicitly saying and calling for snow and ice in South Mississippi, because this looks like the most likely setup, the most likely scenario for the column of air over us. Now, for those places that we just showed you closer to Jackson, closer to North Mississippi, where there would be ice accumulation, this is what's happening for the column of air above them. So they got the same snow cloud that we have up thousands of feet in the sky, but the thing is they get that warm melting layer just like we do. But here's the tricky part. Right down at the surface, right before that raindrop touches the ground, it actually refreezes because the surface temperatures are forecast to be at or below 32 degrees. So this is called freezing rain because it's a snowflake that becomes a raindrop that freezes when it touches the ground. That's how you can get extremely slippery roads, and this type of stuff. Freezing rain is the absolute worst out of all winter precipitation. Freezing rain is the absolute worst impact-wise because it causes an icy glaze on the roads. Cars are slipping and sliding. Bumper cars the way you don't want to play bumper cars. I mean, if I want to play bumper cars, I want to do it at the theme park where you can be safe and there's a literal, safety situation going on with a theme park ride. I don't want to do it in my car that's valued thousands of dollars with other cars on the interstate traveling at high speeds, 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. That's dangerous. So this is the worst type of bumper cars when you have freezing rain creating icy glaze on the roads. Now there's other one, this is called sleet. What's the difference between sleet and freezing rain? They're very easy to get mixed up. But sleet is a snowflake, starts off in the snow cloud. It melts, but that melting layer is very shallow. And you have a deeper refreezing layer. So as that snowflake is falling, it only melts for a short while into a raindrop. And then it has a long time to refreeze into a sleet pellet, which is like a little tiny ball of ice. It's easy to tell when it's sleet because it actually like bounces as it hits the ground, like little marbles of ice. They're very tiny. They're not like hailstones, but I guess they would be like little brothers, little sisters to hailstones. They're very, very small, like smaller than a pea usually. And that actually doesn't cause as much of an icy glaze on the road because the pellets can kind of move around. If you put a heavy tire from a heavy car onto those, they kind of level out. It's still not as good as driving on dry road, but it's nowhere near as bad as driving on this, where it literally just creates an icy surface for freezing rain. And then finally, you just got plain old snow, where you start off as a snow cloud and it never melts. There's never a melting layer. This is what's expected up in Tennessee near Memphis and other areas north. They're not going to have that melting layer, and so they're just going to get pure snow. So again, Biloxi, Jackson, areas near Jackson, and then areas near Tennessee. That's kind of your spread there as far as the forecast for Tuesday's information is concerned. And what I have here actually, if we pause the background, I put on the background of this, it's actually a small little video of some sleet. So that kind of gives you an idea of what sleet looks like. Little bitty sleet pellets. You can see when they hit that surface, they kind of bounce a little bit. So just a visual representation of that. But this is kind of as we wrap up the update. This is another weekend to watch the weather. I know last weekend we were watching the weather closely to see if we were going to get some snow. And for some of you, if you woke up at 3 a.m. on Sunday, you did see some snowflakes. Most people were asleep and missed it. But if you did wake up early Sunday, you saw some snowflakes in parts of South Mississippi. Not everywhere, but mainly either more south or more east. So Pearl River County, you missed it. But parts of Harrison and Jackson counties, we had visual confirmation of videos and pictures sent to us of that. It was not enough to accumulate or anything, just novelty, just enough to look at. With this weekend, it's not looking like a snow setup for us in coastal Mississippi, not for the weekend. Something to monitor, but right now the best potential for that type of wintry precipitation, snow and or sleet and or freezing rain, that's looking like that's going to be mainly to the north of our 6 southernmost counties. So right now that's the update, but of course you do need to stay tuned in case of any changes. And I would imagine we still have 3 days where we're going to probably change the information a little bit each day. We just changed it for you today because Sunday now looks wetter. So if you looked at yesterday's update, Sunday's rain chance was fairly low. Now today, Sunday's rain chance is higher. And it's also, the temperature came down a little bit for Sunday too. Sunday looks like it could be colder with less sunshine, more rain in the area. And what I'm curious about is you see this 32 here Sunday night. If we're getting all this wet weather over the weekend, what happens when we get a freezing temperature Sunday night into Monday morning? Are there going to be some roads that have like a little patch of ice because the rain ended. Like, let's say, for example, let's click it and let's see what happens. So I want to take a look at Saturday's futurecast, then we'll look at Sunday, and then I'm done. So there's Saturday's futurecast. It shows freezing rain and sleet near Jackson and Memphis. Jackson and Meridian on Saturday morning. It shows that on the coast, we're just seeing rain. And then as we go to Saturday evening, we're beginning to see some of that pink color not come down to the coast. If you looked at yesterday's futurecast, the pink color came closer to our coast. This time it did not. So that's, a little bit different from yesterday, but at least the trend still doesn't really clobber us with a bunch of mixed wintry precipitation with the European computer model. We take a look at Sunday's map, still using the European computer model. Look, Sunday's wet now, right? Yesterday, Sunday was kind of dry. The GFS keeps us dry, but the European shows wet weather on Sunday. I'm siding with the European for now. But there is some model uncertainty. Look at this. We go through Sunday. I don't see that pink color. I definitely don't see the snow color. So I don't see the snow ice in South Mississippi. I just see rain in South Mississippi. But here's the thing. The rain ends at like 6, 7 p.m. And how much time do we have to dry the roads before the freezing temperatures start Monday morning? Monday is expected to be dry, and I do think we're going to see some sunshine. You look at this Monday, see the wet weather moving away. We're getting some sun, but are the roads dry? Because if the roads are not dry, then that means the roads are wet, and the temperature could be near freezing, and maybe there could be some patches of ice on the roads. Long time to watch that, though. So we're not going to lock in that, but I just want to throw that out there and get you thinking about watching that as we watch the weather for this weekend. Well, that'll pretty much do it for this edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you for watching Waking Up with Wesley with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.